Virgin Island episode 2. This show's in Channel 4, so if you haven't seen it, you can catch up on the Channel 4 app. So in this episode, they're working on touching for personal pleasure. And it's interesting. So the counsellors are saying to them, we're going to work on building up sexual energy just by kind of like standing and looking into each other's eyes, right? Personally, if I was standing looking into somebody's eyes, it wouldn't matter what way they were looking at me or how long they were looking at me for. No matter how much sexual energy they had behind their eyes, if I didn't fancy that person or if I didn't like that person, there would be no sexual energy. It would just be get away from me vibes. However, maybe this works with these people because they don't really have the experience with other people that I have, so it's kind of like putting them in the hell at something that they've not experienced really before. So Tom gets up with Taylor and he's looking into her eyes, and then she just starts crying, right? And I'm like, something is going on here. So she feels bad. She's like, it's not you, it's me, because she doesn't want Tom to think that like there's something wrong with him. So Ben was saying, oh, I'm more into science, I don't believe in like sexual energy or whatever. And Charlotte is like this really confident girl, right, who he fancies. And she's like, oh, let's try it, right? So they're not even in the workshop, they're just out like on the dock or whatever. And she's like, let's try it. And she's trying to make him feel more comfortable and stuff. But in episode 1, she was talking to one of the other girls and she says, I think that Ben likes me. Like, she thinks that Ben fancies her, right? So at this point, she is giving off signals to me as if she fancies him. And I know that she's just trying to be helpful, but when she knows that Ben fancies her, I don't really know if this was the right thing to be doing. So they're standing staring at each other and she's like, oh, how does that feel, right? And he's like, bewitching. Bless him. So at this point I'm thinking, oh, I think that maybe Charlotte likes Ben because she knows that he fancies her, right? And she's doing this and it seems as if like she's giving him the signs. So they're sitting talking away and one of them's like, oh, what do you think like when somebody says virgin? Like it's like a bad word, it's like an insult, right? And I think that like when you're in school, when you're really young and people say, oh, virgin and all that, like a lot of people used to think it as a bad thing. I didn't personally, right? But you know how like the way guys used to act as if like, oh, you're a virgin? Half of them are virgins as well. Fannies. But like, I know quite a few adult virgins, right? And I don't think any of this at all. Nothing. But obviously when you've got people saying that to you, then maybe you're feeling like you're embarrassed because there's something wrong with you. So Jason is really not into being touched. He doesn't like being hugged. He says his family don't hug each other or anything, right? So they take him in for a counselling session and the counsellor's like, you put your hand on mine, see if you're comfortable. I'll put my hand on yours and see if it's comfortable. And she was trying to hug him and stuff, and it was just a bit awkward, right? But then she ended up hugging him and she says, how does that feel? And he's like, oh, great, right? And he was like getting into it. See, the whole time I'm watching this, I'm just like that, bless them, bless him, bless her. Do you know what I mean? Because they're on this show, it's fucking not easy to get up there and do that in front of a fucking camera as well, right? That's what makes it even more, it was so fucking brave, right? Honestly, I can't even go over it. So he's like that, oh, I'm feeling great, and he walks out his session and he's like, oh, that feels really good, right? So cute. They take Taylor in for some counselling to see maybe why she was crying. And she was saying, I don't feel desirable. People say I take up too much space. I'm too loud. I'm too tall. And I'm like, I'm loud and I take up too much space. Am I tall? No. But like, everybody's got different types, right? And all I could think to myself was, see if she grew up watching Jerry Springer and Jeremy Kyle, she would probably not be thinking like that, because the women used to argue over one guy and be like, oh, he's my baby daddy and all that, and they'd be pure getting ready to fight over him, and he'd walk out and he'd have like one tooth and he hadn't washed for about 3 months. If these people can have women fighting over them, there's a hope for MD. So the counsellor sent them away in pairs to massage each other to see how comfortable they would be if they would take off their tops or whatever. And Charlotte was paired up with Jason, right, who doesn't like to be touched. And it was an absolute shame for him because he took his top off and she was like, oh, what are these stretch marks? Like pure rude, right? I used to get a guy who had like really like massive purple stretch marks all up his back, all up his legs. I didn't think anything of it. And I thought, for somebody who's there and she's with virgins who have got a lot, she knows that they've got self-confidence issues and that. And I know that some people can be outspoken, and I'm not saying that she is on the spectrum, but just as an example, right, some people who are on the spectrum, like myself, can come out with things and not really think about it, right, but the way she done it, just, it wasn't nice at all. And then she says, like, you massage me. By the way, ignore that noise outside, it's been going on all day and I can't wait any longer to make this video. So he's like that, right, she's like, massage my arm, so he's massaging her arm, and he's like, oh, I feel as if I'm wanking off your arm. And then she's like, oh, you can stop now. Like, it was just a disaster, right? She probably wasn't meaning to be a bitch, but it was very hurtful. When they came back for the massages, the voiceover woman was like, oh, Jason's had enough of Charlotte, but Ben can't get enough of her, right? So he's sitting flirting away. And I actually thought, oh, the two of them, like, maybe really like each other. But then she says, oh no, I'm not interested in him. Even I was like that. Why is she giving him the signals? Like, I understand that you can be nice to a person and it doesn't mean you like them, but I really felt like she was giving him the signs. So they went to another touch workshop and all the counsellors were there, and they says, oh, like, sex or whatever, it's like your animal instincts. So Tom, you've done acting, do you want to come onto the floor, right? So he was on the floor with one of the counsellors and they were like kidding on they were cats and touching each other and like stroking their heads together. And you know what? I could have handled that if it wasn't for the fact the counsellors make the noises, right? Like sexy noises, and it gives me the boke, to be honest with you, it just gives me the boke. And everybody else was sitting watching it with a pillow over their face and they're just cringing, and I was like, no fucking wonder, man. See, if they did it in silence, it'd probably be alright. My voice is probably a bit echoey now because I had to move into another room because there's drilling like all around my house. But they had said, does anybody else want to give this a go, right? And everybody's like, oh no, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm fucking getting out. As if they make me do that, I'm leaving, right? So Charlotte put her hand up, and then they're like, oh great, Charlotte, come up. Anybody else, right? So then Ben says that he would do it because he fancies her, and I was like, oh, good for him, right? He's going to give it a go. And then Charlotte was like, like that, this mad face and noise, like she clearly didn't want to do it with him, right? So they're like, it's okay, Charlotte, like you don't have to still do it. And then Ben was like, oh, it's alright, Charlotte, I'll just not do it. So then he's in the wee diary room thing, like, I know I'm not conventionally good looking, like I've been rejected my whole life and like I'm used to it and all that. And I was like, that's a fucking sin, man. Like, I felt so bad for him because it would have took so much for him to agree to go up on that floor with her, and then to be rejected like that, especially in front of everybody else. I'd have been like, ah, for fuck's sake, man. It was too much. After the massage session, and Charlotte was basically slagging him for his stretch marks, the counsellors noticed that he had lost a lot of confidence, so they took him in for another session with the counsellor. And I know the woman's just doing her job, right? Stunning looking older woman. Do you know what? I don't even know what age she is. For all I know, she could be the same age as me, but she's an older woman. And all these people are adults, so they're not doing anything wrong, right? But she's like, oh, like, she was like on top of him. They were basically like dry humping. And she's like, oh, you can touch me. And he's like feeling her boobs, like as if like the actions of like having sex. And he's like kissing her cheek and all that. And see, because like she looks so much older than him, it was like giving pedo vibes. And I know she's just doing her job, right? But like it was just so like I was like, ugh. I realise that these counsellors are helping people, but it was just so hard for me to watch. They also take Taylor in, and she's got to get one of these surrogate partners, which is like they can have sex with him, right? And she's talking to the guy and she's just like really uncomfortable, and then when she leaves she's crying again. She's like, I think I'm uncomfortable because it's a man. Now I'm not a psychologist, right, but see if this was one of my pals, I'd be like, ah, look, you're maybe going to want to look into this because there's something underlying here that's not right. They also put Ben in for a session, like a touch session, and he's like touching the woman's hair, the same woman that was with Jason earlier, and he's kissing her on the cheek and all that. It was awkward to watch. It's a very interesting programme, right? Let me know if you watched it. I'm going to watch episode 3, but I hope that everything works out for these people. It's just sometimes hard to watch. And Ben was absolutely living life after that session.